One. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the CVRcade talk show. We're back by popular demand. I mean, you guys keep watching, keep listening, so we're gonna keep recording these. I believe, Beth, you're currently on your Thanksgiving weekend vacation recording this. Is that the case?
I am. I've got a lovely view of the downtown area. So if you hear ambulance noises or some thumping on the door, it's just room service. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time out. I know it's a busy time of the year. Victor unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's lost his voice, so he wouldn't be much help on the talk show without being able to actually do any of the talking. So he's sitting out for this one. But Beth, we have seen 7 Omniums in the CV Arcade World Cup bracketed session tournament so far, and you've been in one of them. You had some technical difficulties. Quite heartbreaking to
I
watch.
I did. I was talking to Peter Kastrup the next day, and we were just doing a nice casual ride, spinning it out. And I was like, I can't, I know I had a technical, difficulty on one of the races. It might have affected another. And I was just telling him, and then I go, but the wheels came off on Country Rally. At that point, like my mental focus was gone. And I was like, Peter, you would have totally like beat me anyway. I'm not going to blame it on the technical. That's part of the racing, right? We did see a few of those things happen. But regardless of what sport you're in, there's always the unexpected and trying to manage it. But so fun and intense. I mean, like I know that I'm on my holiday break, but I was like, ooh, I was watching the races back yesterday after I had the turkey tryptophan, and I'm like, man, this is going to be insane on Saturday.
Well, what we saw with Sebastian and Carl and Jonathan in the last Omnium, I mean, it took us 7 Omniums to get there to what I think we all expected to see in these 4-man Omniums. But if every Omnium tomorrow will be like that one, like, I'm not sure we're gonna have any heart left. Like, I was just sitting there for Carl, and he just looks like he's just slowly disintegrating into like just darkness. He's like, can't believe I'm going out like this. I'm racing the best I've ever raced. I'm still going out. I mean, the racing is fantastic.
Well, it really, if you think like a regular Omnium has no forgiveness, these have no forgiveness because, you know it's all or nothing. You know that those points matter more than they ever have because you don't have other people that can upset the points a little bit. So even if your teammate can't help you get back, even if your teammate can't, pull you or do different things to help you, the teammate could always help by taking away points of a competitor. This is just like straight up, even though it's 4 up, it was so intense. And I have, the mistakes are unforgiving, and it really has shown the skill that is involved in this racing. It's just evolved to such other level that I couldn't even imagine.
The highlight has got to be Vibeke Bertram, though, single-handedly carrying Zone K last night despite all the technical difficulties. Her being interviewed by both Frank and I on primetime television, I mean, not everybody would be comfortable in that sort of situation, having to entertain. Even Channel 1 was there, so at one point, Vibeke Bertram was speaking to over 1,000 people at once. And she was calm and composed, Betha. She was just having fun.
She's awesome. I love having her on my team. And when I was watching that, it occurred to me that you get lulled into the sense of like, oh, she's so nice, and she is very nice. But you get lulled into the sense of like that you forget how incredibly she will rip your legs off. She's smiling and she's having a good time. And but then when Timothy came in, she's like, oh yeah, remember, I'm, now gloves are off. Like, I mean, she's just fierce, but she's an amazing person. I'm so glad to have her on our team.
Also, Sebastian. Oh, can you please just stop, Sebastian? You're making me laugh every time in interviews. I'm supposed to be one cool and composed, like trying to figure you out. But every time Sebastian goes on, he's like, I'm done. I did. I got nothing left. I got nothing left. And then he just goes out there. I mean, whoever faces Sebastian this Saturday, I think they're just like, right, what am I supposed to do here? He's so strong. He doesn't get phased. I mean, wow.
Yeah, no, he is. He's obviously next level, and he's been on the platform for so long, and then he just has that deadpan. No, I can't do another. No, I can't do it. Like, and you're like, So let's just talk about all of those racers that have done back-to-back omniums over the course of the 7 weeks, and if you look at the way that the standings shake out, the folks that are at the top that have the highest seeds, they're the ones that have been doing the back-to-back omniums. So we talk about the skill coming up, but these guys, not only has the skill come up, but their endurance to fight those attacks, to come back after a crash, their legs are so strong, and I think they have more in them than maybe even they themselves realize, because Cade has a way of sort of unearthing you to dig even deeper, and we say that, and I don't like, it's just on display right now.
It's also the time they dedicate to the platform. I'm looking at the graphic that we put out about who's racing who this Saturday, and you'll see it on screen as well for you right now. And when you look at the riders that have qualified, I mean, these are 16 riders that have qualified. There is, what, 16 that didn't qualify to go on through this point. All are equally great at riding their bike, but those that did qualify are those that really put in the time. I mean, the first quarterfinal on Saturday is Tim Fulford, Nigel Doyle, Alison Kubota, and Aaron Starlin. I mean, Allison, time and time again, has done back to back to back, like K, L, and T. That's paying off. But Beth, that quarterfinal, you'd assume Tim is the clear-cut favorite, but second place, I don't know who takes that.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I mean, Nigel, has been racing really strong. Allison is insane, and Aaron. I mean, that's going to be one where my heart literally is right here, because the acuity, the mental acuity, and like the IQ in racing in that omnium is insane. Because like I've raced him enough times to go, oh, maybe I have a chance. If he makes one mistake, I can beat him in one of these races. I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing Allison and Tim, right? Like some of us play chess. Those two play checkers, and Nigel's skill is so high, and Aaron wants it. Aaron feels kind of like, he was saying the other day that, oh, it's a miracle I made it through. And it's like, no, it's not, man. But now you've got to actually, you're going up to like the big league. So he might pull something out of his hat.
Hey, see, Aaron has so much potential. Like, he's so good. He's such a gamer. Like, he gets it. He's up there. And what we saw in Fantastic Alien C, he put the screws on the opponent. But what he's lacking is just the general fitness. Like, physical equalization can enable you to be competitive. But when we do an hour of racing, to be competitive over an hour, you've got to have stamina. You've got to have actual fitness as like a foundation. That's why you see Tim, Casey, Moti, Sebastian as like the clear-cut favorites, because they just ride their bikes so much. And in a physical environment like this, it does make the difference. When we look at the tracks that are going to be raced in the quarterfinals, we have 8 laps of Dark Matter Tech, followed by 2 laps Submerged Stadium, and then 8 laps Submerged Stadium and 8 laps of Mountain Bike by Jesper, Beth.
So, Dark Matter Tech being flat, I think that, it's a good warm-up race. But these racers also have to be thinking about, they have to take it omnium, race by race, omnium by omnium, because to advance, they need to be the top 2 out of this. But going to Mountain Bike by Jesper after Submerged, I think hopefully, I can't imagine none of these racers have done enough work on Submerged, but Submerged is one of those tracks where we haven't raced a lot of it. So we haven't necessarily seen the evolution of how the top racers are going to race that. There's some obstacles out there. So a technical course, I think that both, Allison and Tim are going to be trying to put each other against the rails. I think Nigel's going to try to like just kind of sneak on by. But that power that's going to be needed in Mountain Bike by Jesper at the end is going to be, they all have it, but they all need to keep something. They do. It's so hard to call, Jesper. I want to be like, it's boom, and I just can't do it.
It's going to be so technical because Dark Matter Tech, it's not a low skill event. It's not a no skill event. It's medium skill, meaning that you can't crash. And with all the twists and turns and trying to find the drafts, you kind of find the flow of it. And I think somebody will overlap the wheels. Submerged Stadium, Beth, you were the first ever winner on that track. And it's by no means an easy track. And then you got to finish it off on Mountain Bike by Jesper, which, I mean, when you hit those gradients and it goes up, like right after the finish line, you do that dip. If you hit that at a low speed, it hurts incredibly much. But that is quarterfinal one. Second up, I mean, already here it starts to get spicy, Beth. Ben Shuilong, Vibeke Bertram, Niels Heldens, and Jonathan Hiron. I don't know anything about this.
Well, when you say that, those are like any one of these people in the 16, I really feel like can make it to the final four, like the final four, because I look at that and I go, oh, if you told me that was like the finals, like, that the last zone of the day, I'd be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's sort of Ben had the 5 wins, just flat out, just dominated his Omnium on Tuesday. Vibeke, though she raced Thursday, you would think she'd be more at a disadvantage, but she's not because of just sort of the way that racing shaked out in her Omnium. So she's going to have fresh legs. Jonathan will be interesting because although he's a gamer and he's getting it, it'll be interesting because he I don't know if he has the technical. We talk about having the endurance, right? That's built up over years. Like, let's just be honest. Cyclists who can go 3 hours have been like working at it for years, right? But that doesn't just happen. You don't build and build and build. So he has those things, but does he have enough experience in the game on these technical courses? That's going to be the question. And of course, Vibeke, she's my teammate, so I cannot be objective. I want to be objective. But I do wear the Vixen colors when I'm in the race. So I'm really hoping for good things for her. But it's insane, this group.
Well, Jonathan is the dark horse to perhaps take it all. Like, the way he was talking, he's like, I just want a shot at Tim. I want a shot at racing Tim Fulford and the greats on the platform. And you heard Carl say, I've got Jonathan on Country Rally. There's no way he's practiced that course. And then it turns out he had practiced the course. And the way he's riding, Beth, is unprecedented. Like, I have not seen anyone with his riding style. Like, he is purposely gapping riders and then somehow managing to really dig deep and sprint back up to the front. That is not something we've seen. And we've seen a lot of Cade racing. And Jonathan, like, he's kind of like, I think all across the community, whenever Jonathan is racing, I think everybody tunes in. Like, it's like, well, Jonathan is fun to watch. He really just comes up. You never know what you're going to get. And that zone with Ben Shuilong, who Frank thinks has potential to take it all, with Vibeke, who really showed Timothy Tamont up on Dark Matter Spire. Then you've got Niels Heldens, who is out to prove himself. It's going to get spicy. This one, like, 2 good riders are going home, and they may not even deserve to go out, and it can just be who crashes the least, who makes the least mistakes. But great race.
Well, Niels, I didn't mention. Yeah, Niels, I didn't mention because Niels also handed it to me quite nicely on a platter. So I know he I didn't mean to not mention Niels because, like, it's sort of like Niels, of course, yes, that awesome racer guy who knows what he's doing. So it's such a toss up. It's going to be intense. I'm going to be glued tomorrow to my computer.
Like, everybody's got Thanksgiving football on a Thursday. I'm thinking more about like Thanksgiving weekend CVRcade World Cup tournament. I mean, 7 hours, like. Victor and I have been trying to plan out, like, how are we going to get lunch? How are we going to get dinner? We're going to need some, some water in here, some pizza. And I'm sure the racers are the same way. And we're back. It's like we were never, ever gone. But I think from quarterfinal 1, I think Tim goes through. And I just think Nigel goes through. I mean, Nigel is a whole new different person. Like, he's just been, like, reinvigorated through CVRcade. Like, his joy, it seems like his joy for life has only, like, gotten bigger as more as he gotten involved with the community and the racing. And I think that really shows in his confidence. And I think those two are looking favorited in quarterfinal 1. But quarterfinal 2, impossible to call. But I do think Jonathan will go through. But whoever gets second place in that one, they're all 3 strong. But I probably will give it to Ben. I think Ben is coming into his own. What do you make of these, Beth?
Yeah, I would agree with you. But again, I saw Niels on Tuesday not go down without a fight. So, Jonathan, maybe because he's sort of on that upward trajectory, we sort of see people go up, plateau a little bit, and up and plateau a little bit. So, I think Niels is kind of still climbing on that plateau. So he's going to give Ben, if we're going to say Ben is sort of, second to Jonathan, I think Niels is going to give him a hard time again, but I'm not going to count out Vibeke because she is stealthy.
Also, I think Vibeke and Nils work the same way. Like if you count them out, they use it as energy. They use it as fuel, and they're like, "You don't think
Right.
I'm gonna go on through? Watch me," because that's exactly like we saw Nils shushing me in the zone with you, Beth. Like he definitely listened to the podcast, and I can only apologize, Nils, but I hope you do exactly what you did on Tuesday again on Saturday because it's a joy to watch. I really, honestly, as much as the back and forth amongst the racers, I enjoyed as well through this. I mean, it's all entertainment at the end of the day. We gotta have fun.
It completely is fun, and it's fun to watch them. And like as you said about Nigel, like his personality coming through, and all of the streamers,
Yeah.
it's great.
Then
Yeah.
quarterfinal three, Mo TP Kelney, Quinton Molines, Jennifer Garcia, and Timothy Tamont. I think by the time this goes live, I think it will be public knowledge that Mo TP Kelney, unfortunately, will not be able to race as he is on vacation, just like Beth on Thanksgiving. So, first seed overall, Beth, not able to race.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's always been number one on his in the platform, racing both seriously for fun and serious fun. I'm sure it's a disappointment to him not to be able to race, but he's a family guy, and there's no way he would put the racing in front of that. So I completely respect, carving out the time and being with family for the weekend. Kind of rough timing though, but he will be back, I'm sure, in the next series to take his top seed and be able to race in the finals.
Oh, it's mad props, because as dedicated as
Yep.
Moti is to the racing, to see that he's even more dedicated to his family, like those kids are lucky to have a great dad, especially from the broadcast the other day when his kid was in there. I mean,
I
that's a
loved
highlight
it.
that's going live on Facebook very soon, but he had both me and Frank in tears as the young little kid was running around. But two Cycling Hub boys up against Jennifer Garcia. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that Jennifer's also come a long way. She was a newbie at the beginning of this series. The Cycling Hub team, all the members have been sort of upping the level of play, and everybody's been kind of emulating what they're doing. So not to say that they invented a lot of moves, but they tried a lot of the stuff first because they were kind of the first organized team on Cade to be able to sort of test out different stuff. So, but she is incredibly bright and studious, and she's also very well coached. Like she's an athlete that actually can internalize the feedback and actually execute on it. So I think that she's going to have to just sort of, Quinton's going to be racing for Quinton, but she still could get blocked if the two are the two up. So she's going to be at a disadvantage because she's got the two of them together. So she's going to have to pull some smart racing out of the gate. But if anyone can do it, it's Jennifer. So and I've been watching her race, and she's a lot of fun to watch too. She's
She
a lot of
is.
fun.
She's gotten good as well. I mean, like being
So
coachable is
good.
something that's a very important trait. And with Frank Garcia as your coach, like he's literally the man that made the algorithms, like the drafting, the physics, the equalization. Like he knows every single in and out. And so if
Right.
Jennifer can pick up the tips and tricks that he share along the way, she can go a long way. But if there are two Cycling Hub riders in the same omnium I would not want to go up against, it's Timothy and Quinton, because those two really good friends, they are both like very selfless. They're both okay, let's try and get both of us on through and see if we can do it. But I think I love Timothy to death, but I think he's the weak link here between the two of them. Quinton is so good, but Timothy over the longer races, he's been getting better. But I think like Jennifer versus Timothy, it's gonna be so incredibly close, because when you look at the courses that are on offer, they're like power courses. Like they are technical, but there's no sudden lane change. There's no dark matter velo. There's no country rally. You've got to have the long term
Right.
power. And I actually think Quentin and Jennifer will go through from this group.
Well, it is going to be a tough call between Timothy and Quentin because it's more of a mental game. I think when you talk about the advantage there, it's that if Timothy loses his concentration, but again, Quentin is on level with sort of like the cerebral and skill of like Tim, right? They're just
Yeah.
it's fun to watch the masters at play. And Timothy is a master at the dark matter velo and the sudden lane change. So he just has to get through to be able to race the sudden lane change, so that he can really show his skill there. But his fitness, he's been doing back-to-back omniums. I'm not ready to count him out. I think it's just a 50-50 who has a better day tomorrow between the two of them. And who knows, right? Then they'll just prove us. They'll be like, yeah, watch us. Jennifer's going to come out on top and go, which of the cycling hub guys are going to go? It's me and the two guys. Come on.
I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Then the last zone and the zone of death in the initial group here. I can't believe two of these riders will be gone before the tournament on Saturday even really begins. Sebastian Kuhn, Casey Shum, Peter Kastrup, and Kayla Laguna. How did they even end up in the same omnium?
Well, it's funny because so the other thing about the way that these are structured is that mathematically, the way that the seeding has gone, it's actually sort of worked out to make some of the best sort of matchups. So I think that like if I had like if this was like, fantasy cycle league, right? Where we used to, do that, where you could pick what winners, like this would be one of the sets I'd want to dream up. I'd be like, oh, if only we could put like, Kayla in an omnium. Yeah, I know. To me, this is just like beautiful. And it is too tough to call, but like this is where, again, we've been doing the team racing. We've been doing all of these, like, oh, well, if so-and-so can help so-and-so. And Casey is a showman, and he's also very skilled because he makes it look like, oh, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and then he gets super serious, puts his head down. He knows when he can put his head down and sprint. And those are the things that I watch, because I feel like in this game, I can never like look away even for an instant, because then I make a mistake. So he knows the courses so well. You see him when he goes in and he concentrates, and you see him, when he like is just absolutely in the zone. And Kayla had a little bit of coming back from an injury. I think she has something to prove, because she was consistently on top, consistently just kicking butt. I almost swore, but I didn't, because she's just been kicking butt. And so Peter obviously is an amazing racer, and he's also on that upward trajectory. So it's like this is going to be intense.
There's so much pride on the line in that omnium. Like, whoever wins that omnium knows that, look, I beat the other three. Like, these are some of the best racers across all time. And you got Kayla, who was visibly, like, flustered by her performance through the qualifiers. And she's like, I've got to do better. I can't believe I didn't even take one win over Ben. And so I think she'll come in with a fire in her belly. But how much will that help when you're going up against the Flying Dutchman that, when turned on, is dang on near impossible to beat? Then you add into the mix a Casey Shum, who has got brains like no other, that can just like understand the flow of like virtual racing. Like, he sees things that other racers and other people don't see. Like, Casey repeatedly sends me messages with like, oh, you could do this and you could do that. And I'm like, how did you even think of that? Like, we haven't even come to that scenario ever. But then one time when it's qualifier, I saw it come up and I'm like, oh my goodness, genius. And then the destroyer, as Frank dubbed him, Sebastian Kuhn. I mean, Beth, do you want to take a shot at who you think is going to go on through?
Oh God, I have to say Casey, just for all of the reasons that we know. And just zooming out for just 1 second, is that what's kind of remarkable is that all of these racers, the amount of time that they're spending thinking about this outside, like, I don't think I've ever seen a style of racing where, people have to systematically come up with a process of how they're going to attack the races. And so, like, when I think about the racers that are going to do the best, I think it's the racers who spend the most time out of game preparing. And it's not just their legs, but it's their mental. They have to have a process of like, this is what I do, this is how I approach it, this is what could happen. So because of that, I think that Casey has a really good chance. I think that Sebastian is making it look easier than it is, because he's so strong, and you just want to say, oh, it's because he's strong. No. He's thinking. He's really thinking about it. Um, uh, and I love Peter. He's always one of my favorite racers to watch. And I love Kayla. I like personally, I'm like, I love all these guys so much. I want them all to go through, but I only know 2 can go through. But I'm gonna root for Kayla because I know she's got it and she's got something to prove. And I'm going to say Casey makes it through. And then between it's so tough. Hard. It's so tough. What's your thoughts? I feel like, let me ask you, and then I'll just say what Jesper said.
Oh, I gotta copy my homework, I see. But I think Sebastian is the clear-cut favorite here. I mean, the thing is, as you mentioned, he's strong, but what gets lost in his, like he's funny on the broadcast, and everybody's like, he's just winning because he's smashing more power. It is really not true. If you look in the way in which he's taking the corners, he's attacking at the right time. He is assertive and decisive in the moment you need to be. When you do make a gap and you go onto the attack, it's so easy to let up and wait. And Sebastian, he just trusts himself all the way through. And I think it's that level of confidence you need to have. Like, you heard me multiple times say I would never want to play poker with him because you never know. Like, he could be holding like 2s and deuces, but it always seems like he's got aces. And I think he's most likely going to go all the way through to the finals. But that will be another, like, when we get to discuss that in a second. Oh my goodness, the tracks are tough. So Sebastian will go on through. And then Peter is so involved. I don't know if you've seen CVRcade Riders, but it's literally Peter, like, just doing my job right now, just putting out all the information about the tournament, going like, here are the qualifiers, here are the points, here are the racing zones. I'm like, thanks, Peter, thanks. So he's definitely invested, and I don't believe he's just training anymore. Sorry?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I've been seeing all of his posts. I've been seeing all of his posts. Just he's so engaged, and it's amazing. I'm like, oh, good, because my spreadsheet doesn't look as nearly as neat in yours.
No, but so Peter has made a big point every time on the broadcast saying, I only train doing races, and I don't believe that's anymore the case. Like, the way he's racing this, I think in his spare time now, he's going in, and I think he wants it badly. And I feel for Casey because I think Casey is like one of the smartest racers here. But if Peter shows up with the willingness to suffer, he's got a good chance. But it's gotta be Casey. It's gotta be Casey and Sebastian. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, I see. I'm going to copy your homework. I'm going to say, yeah. But personally watching all these guys with their styles and stuff and their preparation, and one thing that if you haven't raced on Cade and you're watching this, people can practice on their keyboard. So if you were to go in there and you wanted to test some stuff out, but the dynamics are a little bit different. And I think that when I've practiced on the keyboard, sort of when I'm executing the break, how hard I execute the break, there's no substitute for experience. And this group has so much experience. And I think it's why it's a tough one to call.
Now, then we look on to the semifinals and the finals tracks. Now, we're not gonna know who's qualified for that. For that, you'll have to watch on Saturday. But what we do know are the tracks that are going to race. And in the semifinals, I think the decisive race is gonna be Dark Matter Velo, scoring multiplier of 3. And there are certain racers that know this track, and a lot of them are Cycling Hub boys, like Timothy, you got Tim, Quentin, they really get it. Out there, Casey's okay. Ben has won on a Dark Matter Velo now, but do you think people are finally getting Dark Matter Velo? What do you think is happening in their heads right now as they see this as a potential semi-final race?
Well, Dark Matter Velo had been out of rotation in the lead up for quite some time, but it's definitely one of those courses where people could go in and try to get the fastest lap time and do the braking. Timothy was super generous to kind of share all of his tips. I mean, he just put it all out there. Here's how you do it. Let me show you how it's done. And, I think he made it look so easy that if people haven't tried to go out there and do those things, they're not going to be able to do it. And is there wind? I was just trying to see, is there wind on Dark Matter Velo? Yes. Okay. So that's the other part, right? Because you enter the corner and you're like, I'm under. And the wind gives you a little push and then you're down. And then you're done. Like you cannot, there's not enough time on Dark. This is the unforgiving part about it. With a 3-time multiplier, there's not enough time. And that being the third race of the set, it's going to be the decider, the highest multiplier, the highest technical, like it doesn't going into it. People are going to have high pressure. So who's going to perform under the high pressure is also going to matter. Like, like that's the confidence right there, Jesper. You need to go into that with confidence. So so Sebastian's probably going to do really well on that one, but I haven't seen him in the past race that one more than a top 5. Has he been top 5 on that course before?
I honestly cannot remember, but Sebastian, the way we race is that Dark Matter Velo is important, but if you can win the other 4 races, it's not that important. But I mean, we look at this, and it's the third race. If there is a tie prior to this, the last head-to-head is the decider, this Dark Matter Velo. Now, you've seen Timothy's tips. Now, I just want to share these tips wide because I think, like, in a podcast that was never aired because the audio quality was really bad, which is my fault. I did say very, controversially that I don't think Dark Matter Velo is a tough course. Like, once you understand the pressure points, which is literally the first corner and then the inside lane, speed. Like, the very first corner, you have to sprint like crazy for. Whoever gets out in front is at an advantage. You're applying the pressure and that's it. So tip number 1, sprint like you've never sprinted before to get to the first corner. And I believe the corner speed on the inside is about 34.5. And what you do is instead of slamming the brake down to go down to 30 kilometers an hour and then bring it up, if you tap the brake, you don't move out. Beth, if you slam on the brakes, you slide out and you crash. But if you are tapping on the brake, it doesn't do the same thing. So when you come in, you can keep riding, but at the same time you tap on the brake, and that way you do 34.5, and then every lap you gain about a second or 2 on the competition, and that is how you win. Now, you can know the tips, you can know the tricks, but you've got to go and execute it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do, Jesper. Listen, I have heard that in my head, and I've tap 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 tap. I've kept pedaling. It's tricky because of the timing, and I think that people know when, because on the straightaways you can make up some time, but if you don't brake fast enough, and that's sort of like you have a 16-year-old kid driving a sports car or a 40-year-old person driving a sports car. They just have more experience of how to handle it, right? This is the bike handling skills in a game, right? We talk about bike handling skills out on the road. This is bike handling skills in a game, and it easier said than done. Yep. So anyone who underestimates it is going to be in trouble. But coming from, we have a Roman Arena with one uncrashable Path of Least Resistance. That's one of the longer rides, but I don't feel like that's going to hammer anyone out. But I think Saturn might mess some people up, even though Saturn's been in rotation a lot. Sometimes I see, and I myself have made some silly mistakes on Saturn. So that could get somebody.
It could. I think those 2 tracks are very similar in the way they race. Now, Saturn is a bit more technical than Roman, but both of them are quite power courses. You have the long straightaway on Saturn and the long, swooping rights on Roman to get away. That one, I really think your ability to race Dark Matter Velo will be the decider. Now, I think everybody is getting quite good at it, and in 4-man racing, there isn't as much congestion on the road. I just can't wait.
Right.
As a connoisseur and lover of Dark Matter Velo, bring on the semifinals. But Beth, oh my God, whoever came up with this set of races for the finals, I mean, I think every rider everywhere went, wait, I need my glass. What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, for sure. Dust Bowl Crit, which was made by Ben, so we expect that if Ben gets to that point, he's going to do really well. Tim gave us some tips on the Dust Bowl Crit as well, and that one is again, there's power, there's technical corners, there's apex turns, there's different types of turns coming out of it, and but sudden lane change, another high skill event. I'm sure people have been practicing and anticipating that was going to be in the mix, but then Summit Islands.
3 laps! 3, not 1, not 2, 3 laps! When you've already done
because
2
I'm
onions.
not racing it. I know, and because I'm not racing it, I'm like, they should have made it 4.
That's just brutal. Oh,
I
that's
know.
just harsh. For those that don't know, Summit Islands have the steepest gradients in the game, and it's about 11% near the finish line. And because CVRcade enables 100% trainer resistance, like I think we might see somebody bring special gearing for the finals if they're racing, because that is such an important race to do well in. But how much do you have left at this point to do 3 laps of Summit Islands?
Well, and we should also say, if someone is not familiar with Summit Island, the finish line is at the top of that, like, 8 to 12% grade. So and that's also a technical course because I call it like the roller coaster, because you go down and you can think that, like, wee, I'm going 62 kph, and then you're like, whoa, gotta slow it down. But there's no relief, and if you can get some separation on that course, so it's not like you can save those power ups to the last climb at the end, because if you get any separation on those climbs, it just opens up. So you have to give it all. And this is the end of the racing. This is it. So yeah, if people have different gearing, man, that's some dedication. I can usually get up it, but definitely the stomping at the end it'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to watch the cadences at the end, I think, to see if people are just muscling their way up.
Yeah. Faces at that point when you're racing for $3,000 for the winner, and there's more than $5,000 in the prize purse. But Beth, it is time here at the end of this awesome podcast. Thank you for just being you and I. It's been a fun one, actually, without Victor. He's got his throat injury. He's not able to speak. But you predicted Casey Shum would win a while back. I said Sebastian Kuhn. Do you still stick by that prediction for Saturday?
Well, again, I'm not counting out Tim. I'm not has a really, really, really good shot. And I wish all of the first of all, I wish all of the racers really good luck, and I'm so grateful for all of them to just put themselves out there, lay it on the line, to stream in their races. And I know you and I are on camera all the time, so I don't really think about it. But these are folks who may be more private than us. These are folks who aren't used to maybe putting themselves out there. So, like, the fact that they've done this, the fact that they've kind of bared their soul and shared it with us, it feels like a gift. Like, I just have to say that it feels like a gift. So I'm rooting for everybody. I do have Casey as my favorite to win. I think Tim is going to go down without a fight. Tim's listening, being like, "Oh yeah, Beth. Oh yeah, you really think so?" But you know who we haven't mentioned?
Who?
Allison Kubota. I don't know. She's going to be one to watch.
She's going to be one to watch, but what she struggles with is her kindness. Like, she's too kind. She's not lethal enough. Like, Allison is so lovable. Like, she's just in there, she rides on the front, she takes her turn, but she needs to not take turns. She needs to sit in, she needs to block people, she needs to just, take lessons from Jonathan Herron.
I think that she hasn't had to do those things, because if push comes to shove, I think she would. And I think she's a very nice person, but I feel like she will be ruthless when she needs to be ruthless. She just hasn't needed to be ruthless. So I love that you think she's cuddly and fuzzy. I do not want to go head to head with her, because I know she will.
It's just a little duck I always see on the stream, just in front, hanging down there.
Yeah.
I mean, Allison is lethal on a bike, but I think she's got potential to just be that bit more lethal if she gets a bit dirty with the racing. But I think Casey's a good shout. Tim, of course,
We'll
will
watch her.
have a time on through. Allison has potential. I mean, it's so tough to pick, and we're looking at a potential finale that has Tim Fulford, Jonathan Herron, Quentin Molyneux, Sebastian Kuhn, or Casey Shum up there. That finale, like, all gloves are off. It's gonna be amazing. Now, throughout 3 Omniums in a day, the whole dynamic kind of changes. It does make like the stronger racers from outside favorites, but I'm still gonna stick with Sebastian. I went with Sebastian from the beginning. He was giving good vibes, and when his game works, the man can just keep on riding forever. I mean, we'll see it. I think he'll take the victory, but I mean, honestly, with that much pressure on the line, we have never seen this sort of racing with this much money in this sort of environment being streamed I can't wait to watch it, Beth. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. If you, the listener and the viewer, have enjoyed watching and listening to this, please do share some feedback on the CVRcade Rioters forum. Now, if we didn't predict you to go through, we still love you. We still, we can only apologize. But again, as we said in the other prediction show, prove us wrong, let the legs do the talking, and Beth and I will happily admit that we were wrong with our predictions. But Beth, thank you so much, and I'll see you again next time.